You are now tuned in to Queen Tone, a podcast where all women, especially Black women, are invited to share their thoughts, opinions, and experiences with the world without being asked to check their tone. This is a safe space to tune in to hear two millennial women's take on social, political, comedic, and straight up what the fuck topics every other week, where we bring it to you straight, no chaser. Because let's be real, it's usually never actually the tone that's too loud, but rather the truth. I'm Dayna, a Detroit player paid for being a nerd with my tech savviness and product mindset, but known for my love of 90s R&B, comedic wit, and very on-brand Capricorn lifestyle.
And I'm Nina, paid for being a bad bitch and improving people's lives, but also known for my ability to speak truth to power and dance to the beat of my own drum. Real Aquarius shit. And this is Queen Tone. Queen Tone.
Queen Tone.
I feel like my it's something in my throat and I really can't tell what it is, but that's why that Queen Tone kind of struggled.
Maybe I'll use one from another week when I edit it. Queen Tone.
Keep that in. I'm just letting the listeners know it's a little rough today. It's Monday. It's a little rough.
It's real life. Yes, we're back for another week. We
are.
I realized right before we started recording, what are we going to talk about? Like, I was just with you this weekend. So what are we going to talk about for catching up?
Hey, nice to see you.
Right. Even though I just saw you.
We can talk about our weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so Dayna came she didn't come to visit me.
Yeah.
Dayna did not come to visit me. Dayna came to get a tattoo from that nigga from Black Ink Crew Chicago.
Yeah.
The nigga that raps and does tattoos.
Yeah.
She came to do that and she needed a place to stay.
Yes. That's the truth.
She was gonna come last weekend, but you know what happens when you get tattoos from niggas on Black Ink Crew Chicago and that rap, they canceled. So
it was because you're going in on them. That's my nigga.
Rescheduled.
It was a reschedule because he had some
rescheduled.
important stuff to do. But I will say he is very good when it comes to freehanding and also putting color on dark skin, because that was like my search for a tattoo artist.
Did he freehand your tattoo?
Yes, he freehanded my tattoo.
Wait. How does that even work? So they don't use don't put the stencil on your back at all. So he doesn't
even do like stencil work. So if you come like, oh, I want this, he's like, go to somebody else. They also do like art and stuff. So he's an actual like artist, but then a tattoo artist. So he did my, if you know me, see me, I have a shoulder and kind of half back tattoo that he did about 5 years ago. And I showed him pictures of lilies and he looked at the picture and then like made his version of it. And it's also covering up scars. So he's like drawing it to cover up scars and coloring it, shading it so it won't show. So then for the one on my back, which is an extension, he just went off of his other design, like the first one, and then drew it to, again, cover up scars and marks.
You have a lot of trust because I don't know if I could do a freehanding situation.
Well, he showed me so it's like a red marker and he'll draw it on my back and it's maybe 15, 20 minutes he was drawing it. And then he'll show me it and it looks like a stencil, like a coloring book type stencil. Okay. And then he's saying, I'm thinking of this color. No. It's not like I don't see it until.
I thought he was like, all right, let's see what we're doing today.
No, it's collaborative. He's like, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm thinking about this color. I think this color will pop. And then I'll say, and then I even told him, I trust your creative whatever. Go for it. And then I also tell him, I don't want it to go, I don't want it to be an entire back tattoo. So don't be drawn all over my back and doing everything. Here's the area I want you to do. And he did it and it's worth it. It's worth me driving to Chicago.
It looks very nice. Yeah, it is a really beautiful tattoo and continuation of the one you had before.
And I still get compliments from the other one. And I feel like I have a lot of dark marks on my body from scarring, nervous picking, just a lot of stuff. So for a long time, I didn't wear sleeveless shirts or things with my back out. Or if my back was out, my hair was always with extensions and it was always down to my butt, covering it up. So even getting this is now I can wear the dresses that I want or the shirts that I want and not feel
I love that for you.
Being self-conscious. Because regardless of what other people, have oh no, it's fine. It's whatever. It's it really, if I'm not okay with it, then
Right.
I want to be okay
then
with it.
that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it doesn't matter what other people say to
yeah.
you. Yeah.
So I'm happy, very happy with it. It's worth every penny.
You making me
I'm
want
not gonna say how
to.
much I spent,
I do
but
want another.
it's worth
I'm
every
sure he
cent.
expensive. Okay, them reality TV stars that actually are talented. The price goes
and yeah,
up, as
the price went up because the first time I went to him was when they were first starting the show. So like I signed like a little thing saying if I was gonna be recorded, like I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the show blew up. I think his music blew up, got more popular. So it was definitely some inflation from 2014-ish, 2015.
I'm sure. But that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get. I definitely want another. Well, I have a lot of small tattoos. The biggest tattoo is on my thigh, but I do want another small tattoo. And then you looking at your tattoo made me want to expand my thigh tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Because I invented thigh tattoos,
mm-hmm.
and me and Dayna had this conversation this weekend that I invented.
Yes. No, every other.
And she immediately came up with an example of somebody else.
Every thigh is blank until yours is written.
I was 20. It was like freshman going into sophomore year. I was a good 19 years old getting a thigh tattoo. Who else?
Yeah.
Who else? But apparently they didn't know.
She was like, "Who else do you know that had a thigh tattoo?" And
right,
I was name 3 people. Like
I was being real social boy with it. Like I invented fucking thigh tattoos, and Dayna brought me down real quick. But out of those 2 people that Dayna knows, we invented thigh tattoos. Period.
Yes. I still have to get one more. One more small tattoo. I'll go to somebody who stencils for this one. Some type of ode to Detroit. I'm still trying to figure out what I want.
Oh yeah, everybody gotta have it. Yeah. I got mine behind my ear.
Yeah,
my little Detroit roots.
Yeah, so I'm still thinking of that, and I'll get that one. But then after that, I'll be done. Because I either like them to be very large or very like small and kind of barely noticeable. I think it's Drake who have like random like
his tattoos.
It looked like a refrigerator with kids drawings on them.
Yeah. He got like Bozo the Clown. He got like Elton John. Just people that just don't make sense.
And they're like spaced out, so it's not even like a mural and.
Right, it's not even like a sleeve.
Yeah,
it's literally just like little heads.
You know how like when someone like breaks their arm or their leg and like kind of like children, and then they ask all their friends to sign the cast. Like that's what.
Yes. And it's just sporadic. Even that would look better than what the fuck he got. I don't know, but Drake, hit my line if you listening.
He rich.
Not because I want to fuck you, but you got money and I got house repairs to make. So I feel like, it's God's plan that you help me redo my basement. I really, being a homeowner, I really be like, what if I just DM this celebrity and ask them like if they could just send a contractor? They ain't even gotta send
it. Works for
just send me the contract.
It works for. I feel like students be asking for stuff like on Twitter, just like, oh man, I would really love if someone could like buy me a laptop. I'm studying for blah blah blah.
Right.
And like Oprah paid for Amorphous on Twitter his new MacBook. I feel like you just got to put it out there.
Oh, see, all I need is a new fence. You know what I'm saying? A little tuck pointing work. You know what I'm saying? Just getting my bathroom in the basement, just small stuff. That's to Drake or somebody like Oprah. The money I need really is no consequence to them, but it is to me, and they could really bless me. That's how you're getting old, when your ass start not concert tickets or MacBooks, but bathroom remodeling.
I got these drapes that I'm wanting, and I'm trying to figure out how to finesse. So yeah, that was the purpose of that of going to Chicago. Then we also went out a little bit, and that was also my first taste of like being out and social, and like niggas are outside, like not on the lawn, not on the curb.
No, they are
in the streets.
First of all,
outside.
A bouncer tried to charge us $50 to get into not even a day party. Brunch. It's like a brunch. Like, y'all got me fucked up. I want to be outside, but I don't want to be outside that bad.
And not in a crowded room full of hot people. Like,
right. The fuck? No.
yeah.
I mean, but I haven't really been out in Chicago, though. So that was the first for, I mean, because, you know, I moved here 2 years ago, but the pandemic took 15 months of that. So, yeah, I haven't been out. And that was just a turn off. I was like, oh, no, I'm not doing it.
Summertime
I would
shy
never.
is a lot of fun. But you got to ease into it. Because I feel the same way when I'll be in New York for the rest of the summer and some of the fall. So I'm like, okay, let me get my my dose of New York before I move again. But I'm not about to be out here because Rona, general germs.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm not going back to pre-pandemic germ situations.
Yeah.
I'm just not doing that. I need 6 feet still at the grocery store. I need your hot breath to not be in my face, so still wear a mask.
Yeah.
Like
I think I'll forever wear a mask on a plane, on a train.
That's real.
Because it's like, why? And a lot of other countries do that just to be polite. Like, if you're sick and you're flying, you would wear a mask. Like just, you know, regular cold, whatever, compared to the people pre-Rona was out here.
That makes sense. But it was nice being out. It was we had sushi, we were laughing, having a good time, walking around. The only thing we were missing was ratchet music. And that's why trying to be forced to pay $50 to get to the ratchet music pissed me off. But that's fine. We still had a good time. And we'll continue to do more things like that. As we go along. Okay. So, want to get into queen shit? Do you have anything?
I don't.
I do.
Teamwork.
Well, as we all know, Insecure is coming to an end. And this weekend, I know, say goodbye to yesterday. Okay, that's enough. I feel like queen shit should go to Issa Rae, which doesn't, I mean, like, that's not necessarily like special. I guess that's not like, it's like Issa Rae, it's like she's famous, right? But coming off of, as I've been watching her from Awkward Black Girl, which was like 8-9 years ago, to now her finishing up 5 amazing seasons on a show that really changed the culture. Like, Insecure came and changed the culture as far as Black entertainment, and like in this dawn of Black entertainment kind of coming back to the forefront. And she did that shit on her own, like, and living in LA and seeing her impact in person and seeing how she hires. I have several friends who work for her or have worked for her. And it's just cool to see. It was kind of like Nipsey in the same way. Like, I would see, rest in peace. I can't believe Nipsey gone. But Nipsey was the same way, like looking out for the community, you know, like doing stuff. And so I feel like Issa Rae and Nipsey really embodied what it means to like go back to your hood and look out for people. No matter how big you get. Even and she touched my booty that one time on the elevator. She probably don't remember, but we have a picture together. She accidentally touched my booty on the elevator. I will never forget it.
I met Issa one time. She probably didn't meet me when I was at Essence Fest.
I met her, Jamie.
Right. I met her. Since we're telling Issa stories, when I went to Grits and Biscuits at Essence Fest, and I snuck to get on the stage where like all of the celebrities or whatever that was on the stage, and we were dancing to the same song together. And you know how you just smiling at somebody, like being nice, you know?
Yeah.
She smiled at nice, and that's been my fuel ever
since. that's you meeting her?
Yes, because when someone smiles at you, that means y'all best friends.
I meet a lot of people every
day. Then you have a lot of fucking friends. I don't know what to tell you. But
yeah,
even
shout out to Issa.
To her, how you mentioned like putting on for her city too. Also a lot of her like homies, like Thug Yoda, and is that still his name in the actual
I think so,
series? Yeah. He's like her childhood friend, and he's been like in her lower productions when she was still just trying to make a name for herself and doing whatever. So even like her really putting on her friends, but also like having that support from her friends and like following it through is something beautiful to see. And I'm really sad that Insecure is ending, but I feel like she's already doing so many other great things and expounding and like
she gonna be a Spider-Man.
Yeah,
That's some big
building
shit.
her empire. Like it's gonna. I'm excited. I'm excited that Insecure could be a show that, not that I'm about to have some kids, but like that the next generation can watch and it could be like a timestamp on
and appreciate
this time, and it could be like their, you know, I still watch A Different World or Living Single, and it's like, oh, this is a glimpse of Black life and culture with music, with style, with lingo, with everything, like kind of that time capsule. That I feel like Insecure can hold that position for us.
Be that,
even
for sure. And it was very Black.
Yes.
Very, very
and
Black.
I feel like Insecure is the only show that, at least on, you know, social media and Twitter, that I feel like men, women, everyone could contribute and like hold a conversation. It wasn't just, oh, this is a show that only women watch, or oh, this is like, you know, only men watch it, or this is for this, or this is whatever. Like, it's like, no, we can actually have discussions. I even used to have like
group it sparked lots of
conversations.
And your Sunday why was it? Was it on Sundays or Wednesdays?
I think they were on Monday. So during the pandemic, I would have like Insecure debriefs on Zoom, because, you know, last season came out right at the start of the pandemic, but it was perfect because it was something to escape into, if only for 30 minutes. I'm sure Issa's also happy with people can no longer ask her to make a 30-minute comedy in an hour.
I know.
Like, I'm not even into television and film, but I was like, oh, well, if it's written as a 30-minute comedy, then it's a 30-minute comedy. So why?
They're not mathing, but you know, niggas gonna need.
So yeah, that's, shout out to her. She's also a Capricorn, so that's also very telling.
Yes.
That's also
lots of Capricorn.
That's also why the smile, like, it was a Capricorn smile, so maybe that's why it don't work for you.
Okay, well, you know what? I received that. It's a Capricorn thing. I don't know. She touched my booty. She smiled at you.
Maybe she got an Aquarius placement in the booty or something. I don't know. Like,
maybe in the booty. Let's move on. Well, you know. Well, yeah, I wanted to bring up Issa Rae and Insecure because I feel like a lot of Insecure, like I said, it was very unapologetically Black. It was, to me, as a Black woman millennial, is very like, even with Awkward Black Girl, is like, come as you are. Like, it's okay to be you. It's okay to act, to be awkward, to be that size, to not to doubt yourself, or to be unhappy and to be depressed and to, you know, cheat.
It's okay to cheat. Basically, it's okay.
It was never okay, but I understood why Issa did it. And today's guest, I'm really excited for today's guest. As y'all know, we only bring the best to this show, okay? Because we on our queen shit.
Okay.
It is Ryan Pearson, who is a native Detroiter, writer, innate creative, cinephile, and co-director of the Detroit Narrative Agency, or DNA. She is a body liberation, fat acceptance advocate and activist whose primary focus is examining body images, issues amongst Black women, girl, and femmes that stem from white supremacy and patriarchy. Okay. She also creates content that centers fat Black femme bodies as sensual, erotic, and desirable. Okay. Outside of work, Ryan spends time traveling, enjoying an array of art forms, being in community, and engaging in holistic healing practices. She is a Capricorn. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, y'all. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes. All good.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Cool.
Welcome.
I'm so happy to be here.
Me too.
We're excited to have you.
When we were thinking about we said this too for Danny, but it is true for you as well. When we were sitting down writing out, like, oh, here are the different topics we want to be able to talk about, to have a good perspective on like not being tone checked and kind of having these straight, no chaser conversations, I was like, you would be perfect to just talk about body positivity, and really like how we as Black women are able to see ourselves, and I know we talk about seeing ourselves in media, music, all that type of stuff, but also like just our whole selves, and being able to do and kind of talk about who we are in all of our essence, in a positive light. So glad to have you on, to chop it up with us.
Yeah, happy to be here with my fellow sorors and Capricorns.
Yes.
So
they should know by now. All we do is invite Delta.
Yeah.
who else would you invite?
Right.
I mean, when the excellence is
Yeah,
there,
it's just there.
You
Yeah.
need to branch
When
out.
the excellence is right in your network, like why would you invite anyone else?
Shoot a quick text
Exactly.
and make things happen. So cool. So to kick it off, our kind of conversation, how would you, in your own words, define body positivity? And then also we got a glimpse from your bio, but how did you come into this movement as well?
Okay. How would I personally define body positivity? I would say body positivity is like silencing the negative voices about your physical self. So like I feel like as women especially, from a very young age, we're so programmed to look at our bodies and find what's wrong with it. And I feel like body positivity is where you actually do the complete opposite of that. Like you try to find what's positive about your body, and not in a way to counteract the negative, but the positivity being the baseline instead of the negativity being the baseline. So that's how I would define it, is like viewing your body in a positive light, aiming to make that your go-to, your baseline, versus the opposite, which usually our go-to, our baseline that's been set for us by society is to pick ourselves apart, look at what's wrong, in quotation marks, and and go from there to try to fix something.
And how did you get to this movement, or like because most of us, right, we all feel the same things that you're describing, like you hate your body, you like tearing yourself apart about this and that, but how did you come into this like body positivity?
Yeah, so I came into I have always been plus size. You know, I also am comfortable with the word fat. Like I was a chubby kid. I'm a larger adult. So for as long as I can remember, like I've always been told I should be smaller, or that my goal should be to be smaller, to lose weight. You know, if you lose weight, this, if you lose weight, that, you know. And so I would say like around 2009, 2008, something like that. It was like my senior year of college. I'm telling my age. It was like my senior year of college, or like right after that, I started following Gabby Fresh.
Yes.
Like that
back when she was fat,
young,
fat and fabulous.
Young fat and fabulous. Yes.
We were following her at the same time then. Yes. That was right at the beginning of when plus size bloggers became a thing.
Yes. So Gabby Fresh was like my introduction into like body positivity, fat liberation, like that whole, like, first of all, she openly used the word fat and not as a negative. And like forever, that was a word that I shied away from. Like, do not, like, calling me fat will hurt my feelings so bad. You know, like I never, like I stayed away from that word. Any other word, like, you know, any other word but fat, because there was so much baggage attached to that. But she used the word fat, like I remember when she first started her bikini line, she called it a fat kini. Like,
yes,
it was
yes.
like she was
That girl's in 2 pieces. What?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was like so unapologetic about it. And she just seemed so comfortable in her skin. And it was a fashion blog, actually. It wasn't even, it was a fashion blog with like a little bit of lifestyle stuff in it. But I found her because I was so frustrated. Like, this was before, I tell people this all the time. Not that the fashion industry doesn't still need to expand options for plus size people, but there was no Forever 21 plus.
There was not. There was not.
There was
no. It was a struggle.
Charlotte Russe plus, like none of that, especially as like a young, like I just remember in college.
It wasn't fashionable.
It was not fashionable.
It was like Lane Bryant and Ashley
Stewart. Yep. Lane and Avenue.
And the Avenue.
Avenue was like always like really matronly. Like really, really And so I used to shop mostly at Ashley Stewart because that was like the more trendy one.
That's the more hip. Yeah, that was the more trendy hip one.
But so anyway, I came into it by following. I was looking for fashion inspiration because I was just like, I'm tired of these options. Like, I want to be more fashionable. And so I came across Gabby Fresh. And then not only was she like a fashionista, but she also was like she was this advocate and activist for like being free as a fat person, like not feeling bad, not making like losing weight the center of your existence. And that really struck me. Because legit, I would say from the age of 10 up, I had been dieting and always trying to, never able to really accept my body as it was. And so to see someone who was like in my age group, like do that and like have this whole blog, it was really inspiring. So I started to look more into it and like follow, let's see, that was before, I'm really giving away my age. That was before Instagram. So it was like,
oh yeah, that was before
it was
Instagram.
when everybody had a blog. So I started looking at all the different blogs. And like there was like Live Journal and this other stuff that like led me to other folks who were also body positive.
Yes, I identify with that so much because I was the same way. I always grew up feeling bigger than everybody, even though now I look back at pictures and was like, girl, what were you on? Like, why were you letting people convince you that you were like fat, right? But I felt fat my entire life. And then once I got into, and I haven't always, probably in high school is when I started to become plus size, like past a 14, because even a 14 is not really plus size. And so like getting into the 16s, the 18s, and then going to college and not really finding anything to wear. So I identify with all of that. It's very, and it is kind of like, if you're not losing weight or if you're not trying to be smaller, it's like, what are you doing with your life?
It's like, you can't just exist. Not in a fat body.
What?
Yeah.
Right. So that was really hard. And you know, in this world of social media, it's funny that you said, you know, you started looking at those blogs before Instagram started, because once Instagram started, it's like social media, filters, perfection,
and comparison.
Like
comparison is the thief of joy. I remember, so I went to school with majority white people and I went to high school with white girls. So even being around very thin bodies will also then kind of change your perception of, am I fat? Compared to them, I'm so much bigger, whether it's I have larger breasts or broader shoulders or whatever. So it's like, I need to be smaller to look like them. And, you know, at a young age, all you want to do is be like everybody else. You know, now it's cool to be different and unique as you're older, but when you're younger, it's like, I want to be like everyone else. And to your point, Ryan, what you said at the beginning of like the negative comments that are put in your head at a young age, it's like, if I could list the negative things about me, I could like run them off. But then when it's the positive things, it's like, oh, I really need to think. Or
what do you like about your body?
Or do I believe what I say? If I say like, oh yeah, I'm this, do I actually believe that? Because I've been telling myself all of these negative things for so long. And when you think about it, it's these negative things about your body, like your body that's keeping you alive. I even think of during the pandemic now, I think Crystal's tweeted like, you should be kinder to your body because it's keeping you alive during a pandemic. So even like, no matter what I look like or what size, like gaining weight, losing weight, even if it's not weight, if it's, oh, I don't like my breast, or, oh, I think my shoulders are too broad, like whatever it is, your body is keeping you alive.
My booty too flat.
Like,
but yeah, so like,
it's
whatever.
true.
Oh,
it's
sorry,
true.
go ahead. Yeah, it's very true.
And I mean, and you actually make a good, like the comparison to like you, and you're not somebody that I would consider plus size. Like, I don't know if you've ever been plus size, but like, even so, like, this kind of goes into how like fat phobia is kind of fat phobia affects everything. Like the way anti-blackness is pervasive, fat phobia is also pervasive. Like, it's everywhere. You can't escape it. Because like, even so, like, people are like, oh, I don't like the word fat phobia, I'm not scared of being fat. And it's like, actually, you probably are, because you've probably been trained and geared to be scared to be fat. And
absolutely,
it's like, I mean, I know like one thing that used to get me, and like, you know, I had to have some really hard conversations with close friends, is like, okay, if you're picking apart your body and you're like half my size talking about how fat you are, how do you think that makes me feel?
Oh, absolutely.
Or how do you really see me?
Or how do you
really see me?
Yes.
And
yes. Or when a friend is like, "Oh, that bitch fat."
Yeah.
Oh,
bitch fat.
I'm like, wait. Well, I'm
and don't let
he
it come
with
down
a fat bitch too. Like, so what are you really?
Okay.
And then you're like, but I am the fat bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you're like, I am the fat bitch. So then what does that mean about how you actually view me? If we weren't friends, I would be the fat bitch you
fat bitch.
About.
Exactly.
So
or it works for you, but I don't ever want to be there. Like, oh no, you're beautiful. Like, it works for you.
You're cute.
But I'm a not eat today because I don't want to be like I don't want to be like that, or I have a fear of that.
And it's like, and so like, I pay attention a lot, and always really have, to the language that people use, like when they're saying things or when they're describing things. And so like, I have had some really hard talks with like family or friends, like, you know, when you talk about larger bodies or fat bodies in that way, you're talking about me. You may not think you are directly, but you are. And so, you know, trying to, it's like this thing, like, if you don't want to be fat, okay, but think about, like, let's unpack your ideas of what it means to be fat, and how a fat person's life is. Like, are your thoughts that a fat person is automatically unhealthy? Are your thoughts that a fat person is lazy? Are your thoughts that a fat person has poor hygiene? Because these are things that people, these are stereotypes people have about big people.
And they assume, I think there's also an assumption that because my body is bigger, I am doing something wrong. When it could literally, as somebody, and mind you, I've had weight loss surgery, and I've shared this on this show before. So at my biggest, I feel like, I was ashamed to be in public or eat. Just eating food, no matter, it could have been a fucking salad. People were going to look at me like I was overindulging no matter what it was. And it's like, and then people are like, well, we don't like fat people because we concerned about your health. Y'all don't give a fuck about nobody's health. Because y'all let Chris Brown ass snort coke every fucking 5 seconds and look crazy.
Or the super skinny girl who eat a whole bunch. It's like, oh, she's so cute. Look at that. She has
she's so cute.
She's got an appetite.
Just say you hate fat people and go.
Just say that.
Like, just say you hate fat people and go.
Just say
because you don't actually care about what I'm eating or if I'm exercising. I mean, like, and I also don't. I've grown out of this of like over explaining, well, I go to the gym. Oh, I do meal prep. Like, I eat vegetables. Like, and I've just stopped. I was like, fuck it.
But
whatever.
that need to over explain literally comes from fat phobia because of the ideas and lies and untruths that people have developed about fat people based on what society says. And that shit comes from the media too. Like,
absolutely.
If you really, really think about movies, TV shows, the depictions of larger people, they're horrible for the most part. Like, I would say,
rewatching Moesha and all the fat jokes from him, who was not even fat.
Who's not even fat.
Like,
right? I was like,
but
like
she wasn't
thin.
Whatever.
She wasn't Moesha.
She wasn't thin.
Yeah, she wasn't Moesha. Therefore, she wasn't right.
Yeah. And this is another thing when it comes to like fat phobia. Certain shapes get it worse than others. So if you're bigger with the hourglass shape, like Gabby Fresh, for example, she's like hourglass.
Yeah, she does have an hourglass shape. Yeah.
People still say shit about her, call her fat, talk shit, all that. But when you're like more apple shaped, like me, where like you carry more weight in your stomach, it's even worse. So like for Countess Vaughn, she's actually more apple shaped, and she didn't have an hourglass shape. I feel like if she had been her same size with an hourglass shape,
people probably wouldn't have said it.
They might have
that's more palatable.
Been like, made chubby jokes or something. But because she had more of a stomach, less of a booty, stuff like that, I feel like it was even more like, oh, she's the wrong type of body, which because she wasn't thin, she was fat. So the thing, rewatching Moesha, I was just like, yo, they really came for Kim. Like, they really came,
and it was so unnecessary.
And it was like,
and she was
so
just
terrible. They were horrible friends.
Yeah,
like,
they were horrible friends. No, I couldn't even rewatch Moesha because I've never liked the show. But just of the tidbits I was rewatching, I was like, this is awful. And the thing is, the people with quote unquote normal bodies, right? And when I say normal bodies, what I mean is just like, your average person, like your average person is not a size 2, and nor are they and nor are they on the other side. But like, I think the average
it says 12 or
size for a woman is
12 or 14.
I think it even went up to like a 16. It might be a 14, 16, but somewhere in that range, right? And for those of you who are like, what is a 14, 16? Like, what the hell is that? I'm trying to think of a celebrity. Okay, I can't think of a celebrity, but
wait.
Okay. If you've ever seen pictures,
old America Ferrera, I feel like
America Ferrera.
Before she lost a bunch of weight, she was about a 14.
Yeah, she did lose weight.
Probably Kim and Moesha was a 12 or 14, maybe.
I feel like she was at a like point before she like in the beginning. Because she had a period in Moesha before they got to the Parkers where she lost a bunch of weight. I would say she was probably about a 14, 16.
I don't even think she didn't even look that big to me. But my perspective is off.
If you look at my Instagram, the pictures on my Instagram, I was a 12. So for y'all listening, go to my Instagram.
And I'm a 14, whatever. So anyway, just so yeah. But it's like, your average body all of a sudden becomes like, oh, I know I see 1,000 people with this body in my life just walking down the street, but it becomes to be like, oh, that's not normal. I'm supposed to be smaller. And then that leads to like an unrealistic goal because none of us are that. Like, if you're going on averages, none of us are that.
Yeah.
I mean, that reminds me, I used to be, when I was in high school, I was obsessed with America's Next Top Model. Like, I loved that show. And like, they were so horrible. Like, I remember there was a model on there who was a size 6, and that was considered big. And they were always trying to get her to lose weight. And she was like, she would be breaking down crying, like, because I think she had started off as like a size 14 and had gotten down to a size 6.
What? That
like,
isn't
the smallest her body. I don't even think her body
probably
wanted
was
to
90.
stay at that size. But they were like, "Oh, if you could just cut a little more and get to a 4," and it's like
it's unhealthy. It's not
Yeah.
realistic.
And even
yeah,
even for Black girls, if I think of like modeling, ballet, dance, like these unrealistic expectations to look like white bodies, even though you're Black and just our bodies are not produced or grown or will not look like that, is also adding to the layer of it being unrealistic. And it's like, what are you actually chasing? Because then it's not only are you chasing what you think is beautiful, you're chasing what the white standard European sees as beautiful or thin, and you were never meant to ever look like that.
Which is the problem with everything, especially the beauty
white
standard.
people.
It's like white people, white people, white toxicity. I'm starting to. I still use white supremacy, but I saw this article about why you should call it white toxicity because there's nothing supreme about that bullshit. And I was like, yes, okay. So, but white supremacy / toxicity centers them in their bodies. I mean, honestly, even the BMI chart is based on white bodies.
Oh yeah, fuck that BMI chart. You know how many doctors I had? Every time I could literally have gone and had my arm chopped off, lose weight. Yep. Like, bitch, my arm is not attached to my body. How much more weight can I lose?
Yep.
I left the doctor because I was like, she just kept telling me to lose weight, and I was just like, you know what, you're not helpful. And she was like super apologetic because I also had the privilege to be like, I'm switching doctors, fuck you.
Yeah.
But I was with her for several years, and every time I went to her with anything, it was always lose weight.
Yeah.
And it's terrible.
Also, like, that's one number you're looking at. What are the other numbers? How's your blood pressure? How's your A1C? How's your, how are your vitamin levels? How are these, like, and here's the other thing, and people consider this radical, but like in fat acceptance and body liberation, like, even if you are fat, right, and your weight is impacting your health negatively, the whole point is that you still deserve to be treated like a fucking human being.
Right.
And you still shouldn't be berated for that. Like, if I'm the size I am and I have high blood pressure, it may not be because of my size, but let's just say my size exacerbates whatever, and I do. I still, don't have to hate myself. And B, it doesn't give anybody else the right to police me regardless.
Right.
And so, and I think that's the radical thing about like, so there's like body positivity, which is kind of like all inclusive now. It's about like feeling good about your body, whatever size it is, whatever it looks like, what abilities it has, etc. But then there's also like fat acceptance and like fat liberation, which is like a little bit more radical than body positivity, where it's like, hey, fat bodies have always been around. Like, if you look through history, there's always been fat bodies. And also, regardless of a person's health, ability, and whether their weight impacts that or not, they are still a human being. They still get to feel good in their body. They still get to be treated with dignity and respect. And so love.
Yes.
And not be judged.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? No one, like, to the point, I want to say I think Nina made earlier about, like, Chris Brown. Chris Brown is on all the drugs, right? He still makes good music.
He does. But nobody gives a fuck.
All the drugs, right? Is anybody policing him? Is anybody, like, on a daily, like, if he walks down the street, is somebody going to shout out at a car to him, hey, drug addict? You know what I'm saying? Versus like, I have had the experience of walking down the street and having somebody shout out the window at me like fat ass or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Just for existing.
Yeah. That's happened to me too. I mean, the things that people will say to you when you're fat versus when you're not fat. And I don't think it wasn't until like I lost weight via weight loss surgery. And I've never wanted to be like skinny. quote unquote skinny. I just wanted to be able to, like, I don't know, cross my leg and just do stuff that I wasn't able to do, right, in my bigger body. But I was a fashionista in my bigger body.
Yes,
like
you
I was always working in no matter what size I was.
Yes.
But for me personally, that was just a choice that I made for myself. And and I think because I made that for myself and it wasn't forced on me, again, it was like accepting the body that I was in and accepting this is the path that I'm going to take for whatever reason. But not everybody needs to do that or has to do that. And even like losing the amount of weight that I've lost, which is in the scheme of things, like I said, I'm a size 14. I'm not a small girl. Mm-hmm. People treat you so differently when you're smaller. And it actually makes me resent people because I know how in certain situations, how I would have been treated versus how I'm treated now. Like when I get on an airplane or when I'm at a restaurant or when people are talking to me about fat people or like saying things and I'm like, and I am like, oh, I'm fat. But I was like, oh, they don't know I'm fat, right? Because my mind still is that I'm a bigger girl in my mind. So it's like, oh, this person didn't know me when I was bigger physically. So they're saying these things to me, not knowing that they're offensive.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I get
or
really
not thinking that you care. Because I feel like you gotta know some of that shit you saying is offensive, but
it's fucked up.
They don't. They feel like because you're not in that category, they didn't know you when you were bigger. They feel like they can talk shit with you about
And it's like I'm not about to like I don't find those jokes funny. I don't see the humor in that. That person is just existing, or like find a better comeback. Like if you don't like the girl, just say, like it could literally, because best believe if you don't like the girl because she took your man, I could have took your man too.
Yeah.
So I think there's also a perception of dating and being a bigger girl that like that the world thinks, oh, they're not having sex or they're not desirable. And let me tell you, I ain't never had an issue. So I think those types of things always grind into my gears.
Yeah. Or the favorite one people like to do is like, oh, she got a man, but I can't even get a text back. Like and a lot of times they use that towards big girls. Like they'll be like, oh, she got a man, I can't even get a text back. And it's like, how is that her problem?
Right. It's not. It's and it, again, the fat phobia is like the comparison of it all. And so like for you, like we were talking about with social media kind of coming into the scene and like perfection and comparison, like what are some things that you would suggest to people to view their bodies in a positive way, being inundated with these messages all the time?
Ooh. So like social media is a gift and a curse because it is one of the best ways to find community, especially in my experience, like find community in the like body liberation, body positivity, fat acceptance circles. I mean, that's what I've done. Like once Instagram kind of exploded, especially like with hashtags, and you can find
people.
You can find hashtag fat acceptance. All right, let me see what this is. Let me go follow that page. That seems cool. And so I would say I found so much community on social media that even though social media is notorious for like the filters and we can manipulate anything with angles or whatever. There is like the community for the movement is huge on social media. Like I started following, outside of Gabby Fresh, there's so many influencers, plus size models, which is another thing. Plus size models also have like
they all
hourglass shape.
They are hourglass,
and they're all like 14.
Love Tabria Miles. Now, mind you, Tabria is that her
Tabria
Majors?
Majors,
yes,
gorgeous. But she tall, and I'm like, I'm 5'4". So like, tall. You telling me them swimsuits not fitting on me like they fitting on you?
Yes, and she's tall, and she's an hourglass. Like she has, that shape that's coveted. So yeah, plus size models, but you do have a few that are like breaking through who don't have that typical hourglass plus size body. And so for example, like Rihanna, the models she uses for Savage,
she's
so
really
many
inclusive.
different shapes and sizes.
Apple shapes, pear shapes,
every shape.
Like, I bought her Savage Fenty, the most recent show that she had on Amazon Prime. I was like, this is the first time that I am looking at clothes and can actually see a body that resembles mine to know what the fuck it may look like on me. Yeah. I was even simple things of like, I was looking for stuff to wear for a wedding next week. And I'm like, I have no idea online. I'm like, I have no idea what this is actually going to look like on me because none of these models.
Everybody looks like a fucking Kardashian.
Yes, it's literally a Kardashian body now.
Same
even on the plus size pages, it's Kardashian bodies, and it's like, how am I? Even with the height thing too, it's like, how am I actually going to see what this looks like on a body that actually looks like when you look around on any given day in the street?
Yes. So
it's rough out here.
Yeah, I mean, social media, there's like a ton of people you can follow. Let me see. There's this woman, what's her name? She was called the Militant Baker. Her name is Jess Baker. And she's a white woman. She wrote this book called Things No One Will Tell Fat Girls. And it's one of my favorite books. And her book is just like literally debunking all these things about being fat and like how fat phobia actually stems from racism. How fat phobia came about because white people were trying to diminish and basically insult Black bodies. And again, trying not, like, Black women historically have been curvier, more muscular, like, and didn't look like thin, white bodies. And so not only that, but there's this whole history with like migrant farmers where they were browner and stockier. And it was like, well, the opposite of that is what you should look like. So like there's all this information and in a few different books that talks about how fat phobia actually stems from racism and white supremacy. And
I believe it.
So I felt like that was a page I follow. I do follow celebrities who are plus size. Like I love me some Lizzo. I love me some Amber Riley.
Amber Riley.
Love me some what is her name? Raven Goodwin.
She was being Mary Jane's niece. And
yes. I remember seeing her out in LA.
Danielle, what's her name from Orange is the New Black? What's Danielle's last name?
Brooks. I do know who you're talking about.
Brooks.
Is it Brooks?
Yeah. Like, so I fill my feed with bodies that look like mine. That's important.
Yeah.
And like like I follow a bunch of different plus size people, but I also follow plus size people who like have stomachs or who are shaped like me, because it's important for me. Because me and a friend were talking about how, like, especially because it's okay to be thick now, like everybody kind of wants to be thick now. This you'll have this new ideal where like, okay, so back when we were kids and shit, it was like a skinny model type that was seen as like an ideal,
desirable.
But now it's like y'all said, the Kardashian body type, or like even like somebody like Tabria Majors. And so I have to catch myself not coveting the new thing. Because even as that changes, whatever is in the moment gets pushed in our face.
Yeah, that's so important to keep. And it's really hard, even as somebody who like has accepted my body, like speaking for myself, like who has accepted my body in some sort, I still get the like, a Megan Thee Stallion coming. I'm like, fuck, all right, well, how many high jumps and burpees do a bitch gotta do?
Yes.
And it's like, girl, let it go. Like, it's never, like, love the body that you're in. And I think fashion has helped me, like having more fashion choices has helped me to love my body, because I'm like, no, I look good. I look good too. I look, I look not desirable, like I'm fawning for people's or male attention specifically, but like I feel good about myself, and like these clothes fit me, and I'm not trying to squeeze into a like prior to plus size clothes being a little bit more available, which there's still a long way to go. I agree with you. But like at the beginning, because I had a blog too. I was one of them people with a blog.
I remember
it was called Eat Your Heart Out.
Yes.
And I used to put recipes, and I was a fashion blog. It was like a lifestyle thing. And so like the more I started to dress myself the way that I liked, and that clothes that fit my body and accentuated the things I loved about myself, the more my confidence grew, and you couldn't tell me shit.
Because even when you mentioned Megan Thee Stallion, it's like, again, comparison is the thief of joy, because even Megan, it's like, okay, what if I did everything I could to get Megan's body? Megan then already has other things that she has to deal with being tall or being broad shouldered. Like then she gets, oh, well, now she looks like a man, or she's darker compared to other rappers. So it's like, so even it's like, once you think, once you get to whatever level that you think will solve all your problems, and then you get there and it's like, psych, now there's all these other things.
There's always going to be,
because it has to be the confidence. Like, so stop trying to be others.
What the trick of the beauty industry is, though. Like,
always striving.
Like, the beauty industry is a $1 billion industry because it keeps us always trying to attain something that is outside of ourselves. So like, and I think that goes into why we, you've heard the saying that like we always want the opposite of what we have or whatever. So like
the grass is always greener.
The grass is always greener. So like there was a time where big titties was popping. That was in the 90s. And then when we were kids, before, remember everybody had like breast implants and shit. Like, all of us,
like the Pamela Andersons, like obnoxious.
Oh yeah, because I gave that shit. I gave mine away, okay? Because,
but that's when big titties were in. Now it's all about ass and hips, like ass, hips, your whole lower body. And so it's like the beauty industry is set up to make us always reaching to attain something else. And so to the point y'all were making, there is no ideal actually, because it's always changing. It's always evolving. So if you're racing, trying to keep up with that, you'll never be satisfied with what you have.
So I'm switching questions now, but we've talked about like confidence, or saying being able to love things about yourself. And I feel like this happens a lot of times with what the underlying thing that happens with when Lizzo is posting something or saying she loves herself, or even like comments of like, oh, that's a fat bitch. She thinks she all that. Like the audacity for you to have confidence in yourself is like another added layer of the fat phobia of you're fat. So therefore you should have low self-esteem. Therefore you should know your place and like be thankful. If it's dating, you should be thankful for the scraps that you get. Like, well, at least you got a man, even if he's trash, like that's a man. So that should be okay.
Right.
How would you say to kind of combat, or if you've had to kind of combat that area of like the audacity of having confidence or the audacity of loving yourself? Because even that's an audacity that I feel like when you think white and black, it's like, how dare you love yourself and be black? Don't you know? Right. Don't you know what we think of you? So like, do you kind of get that? Do you get that same fuel of like, well, I have to do this being black. I have to do this being a woman. Is it kind of that same bucket of your thinking, or is it a little bit different as far as I like my body, the body that I'm in? I pull whatever, like I dress how I want to dress. Like, where does that kind of come from to combat those people, those ignorant?
That's a really good question. I think so. I always look at, I think confidence, and whether people want to admit this or not, I think confidence ebbs and flows. Like, and I think that's for everyone. I think we all have good days and bad days. Days we wake up and we like, I'm the shit. I look good. Can't nobody tell me nothing. And then there are days we wake up and it's like, oh, I hate everything. Like I think, and I think there's this performative confidence that we've gotten used to because no one wants to admit that there are moments, whether it's about your looks or otherwise, where you just don't feel confident, and that's okay. That's a normal part of a human experience. I think though that my confidence overall in my body like had to be learned because I didn't have it for a long time. Like it's something that I had to grow and water and tend to because I had confidence in all these other areas, but I didn't have body confidence for a long time. And it was because of the messages I got about my body. Like there was a point where I used to blame myself for that. Like, well, why couldn't you just overcome it? And then I'm like, bitch, you're inundated with this on a daily basis. Like it is not your fault. And so
were those other areas watered for you? Like you said, like body. Yes. So it's like smart. Was it because people were telling you were smart? So it's always like, okay, I believe that. Or was it just the lack of it coming from like a body standpoint?
I actually think both. That's a really good point because, you know, I was always a smart kid, always had good grades, you know, did really well in school. So I was confident in that area. Like people always told me I had a pretty face, right? That they love to tell big girls your face is pretty.
Oh, you so pretty.
You so pretty. If you only were, yes.
Oh, that's like the fat version of you're pretty for a dark skinned girl.
Yes, that's literally it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember I was young. I was like 8, and this lady was like, "You have such a pretty," like this random lady. I was playing outside with friends, and it was like one of their parents' friends. So my mom was out of earshot. She would hear this lady say this to me, but she was like, "You are so pretty. You just need to lose a little weight and you'll get all the boys when you get older." And that stuck with me. Like that stuck with me because it was like, thank you for saying that. It was like if. And so I remember that was when like this seed really got planted about my body where I was like, okay, everything's good from the neck up, but from the neck down, I need to fix it. And so all that to say, I feel like people do look at you like it's this weird thing where like you get some people who look at you like incredulously for having confidence, like how could she have confidence and you know be in that body, and then you have other people who are like in awe that you have confidence. So like you get both sides of it. Like you get the mean girl side where it's like how dare she have confidence, and then you also get the oh you're so brave. Like people are
yes. I think Lizzo is a perfect example of this because she's like a fat body in public. She's talented, you know, and everybody thinks that they get to say whatever the fuck they want about her. And and I think she was doing an interview. Oh, who was she doing? It was on Netflix. What's
David Letterman.
David Letterman. And she said, like, why can't I just be regular? Like, why do y'all gotta fawn over my confidence? Like it's like I'm not supposed to have it. What you're telling me, what you're telling me by saying, oh my God, I can't believe how confident you are. You go, girl, is that I should not be confident.
Yeah.
And then that fucks with your psyche because you're like, now I'm pushing through, or like when I don't have confidence on those days, like you said, Ryan, when you have those ebbs and flows, right? It's not every day that I feel like a bad bitch.
Right.
So it's like on those low days, it's even worse.
Yep.
Because I don't have the confidence, and now I'm walking into a room and people are like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you like strutting in 6-inch heels? And all this like, all right, can I just be a person?
Yeah, that's the same of, I'm pretty sure y'all have seen the video of when Serena Williams was a child and like the interviewers asking her, you have all this confidence, like where do you get it from? And her dad's like, don't ask her that. She answered the question, like stop trying to understand how did you get this confidence, because for whatever reasons you shouldn't like yourself. So why the fuck do you like yourself? And what you be like, what special thing do you have that you can like yourself? And why do you unapologetically at that?
And that's the word right there. It's like, I think it's unfortunately revolutionary to unapologetically love yourself in any of your forms, because it's like, again, we have been like, especially women, we have been, it has been like forced upon us to always try to find something wrong with ourselves. So like, I think if you find unapologetic self-love, you know, no matter size, shape, whatever, that's already a feat. I do think it's even more of a feat when you find it being in a bigger body, because you have to combat so much to get to that point. And like, and even if, because that's also not every fat person had to find confidence. I know fat people who have always had it. Like, and they were looking at everybody else like, why the fuck do you expect me not to have it? And so, like, I have a friend like that, and she's like, people have all, you know, people do that whole, oh my God, you're so brave. Oh my God, I love that you dress like so sexy and stuff like that. If she should dress like she hates her body. And she's like, she's never really, like, she grew up in a household, like her mom was plus size, and her mom was a plus size woman who, you know, wasn't always on a diet and stuff like that. So she just grew up in her body.
She's like, this shit is normal.
Exactly.
Like, this is just me living my life.
And so for her, she's like, it's always crazy to me that people expect me not to be confident. Like, and she never had to, you know, she didn't have a journey. Like, there are lots of bigger people who've had the journey I had, where we like did not have body confidence and then had to grow that. But there's also people who always had it or never, you know, had that issue. And I feel like that's also a narrative you don't see that much. Like, you always see like, oh, I had to learn to love myself. And that is a story. That is
a thing. Yeah.
But also there are people who, like, you know, grew up in households where that was, their bodies were always affirmed for them. Yeah. They didn't deal with that. And there's still the expectation that they should hate.
Yeah. And I think that shows how badly we treat fat kids.
Yes.
Like, if you are husky, like, you know, you go to the husky section, like, that's like, and like, because from a young age you're inundated, and like you shared, and thank you for sharing that you were 8 years old and you remember that comment. It's like, yeah, like, basically coming out the womb, if you're a chubby baby, it's over for you. Society is done with you and is going to tell you.
Well, if you're a chubby baby, you're cute. If you're a chubby baby, you're cute. I remember I posted that before. Like, because people, if you think about it, people love chubby babies. It's when you become like a chubby
toddler.
I'd say preschooler. It's like when you get to be 4 or 5, and then people are like, okay, the chubbiness ain't cute no more. Now, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's like, what are you eating? What are you feeding? Like, but some of us are just naturally big. Like, I don't think I'll ever be like, I guess on the BMI chart, right? I should be like 140 pounds. Like, kiss my ass. It's never gonna happen. I don't care how much dieting I do.
I went to a doctor recently who told me I should be 140 pounds.
The fuck
I
out of
was
here.
like, okay.
That's not like, it's not real. And when I say it's not realistic, I'm not even saying from I want to diet and get down and maintain 140. It's not. I don't think my body would naturally ever be that size.
I don't think there's any women in my family like who was 140, just not in my lineage. Like, that's just not.
And that's just not in my lineage.
That's not a thing.
It's not in my DNA.
That's not a thing.
But, like, it doesn't. Those types of expectations don't even allow you to be like, oh no, this is my body in its very natural state. And like, even for me, like, I did have to come to terms with some of the emotional, and I still deal with that, right? But those two things are not mutually exclusive. Like, you can eat whatever you want and be a size 2. You can eat whatever you want to be a size 16. You can eat whatever you want to be a size 28. You can, you know, like, it, like, people tie so much of diet because they think it's something you can control.
Yeah.
They want to blame you for being fat.
Yes.
So the way to blame you for being fat is to say there's something that you can control, which is what you're eating, and that's why you're fat, when that is not the reality of how bodies work.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. There's so many things that go into your, like, how your body presents. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's genetics, there's environment, there's what you have access to or don't have access to. There's like all these, like how much muscle you carry, how much, like there's so many things. And like also
hormones,
like
hormones,
so many things,
especially as women.
Yes,
especially,
and as women, we naturally carry more fat than men as well.
Right,
like, you know, we're softer.
Right,
our bodies are made for child carrying and childbearing. Like, and there's just so many factors that make up the number you see on the scale. And it's like, to Nina's point, doctors and society try to make it a personal, like a personal failure, a lack of discipline. Something is wrong with you if you can't get or stay thin.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and I was back when Clubhouse was still a better app. I was in a room.
You say that like Clubhouse been around. I don't even think Clubhouse been around a year. You keep
because there was a moment
app.
that I feel like I was actually hearing quality conversations and like learning things, and it was during quarantine, so maybe in my mind it seemed like a long time, and it could have just been 5 days. I don't know, but like there was this,
I think it was
where it's like, okay, I'm actually learning things, whatever, in a room talking about body positivity, and specifically with like going to see doctors. And so it was a lot of women, fat women, talking about like how basically doctors, how you've been saying, like they'll go in, they'll see a number, and then their whole conversation will change. It's like, oh, you're fat, you need to lose. And I'm like, I remember I went to a doctor. I was an adult because I was past when my mom would go to the doctor with me. And I, younger, was pretty athletic. Like if you glance at my body, you can say, oh, okay, maybe she plays sports, does whatever. This was before I stepped on a scale. So it's like, okay, you're doing good. Everything is good, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we forgot to take your weight. I weigh more than what I look at any stage of any type of body. That whole conversation changed. You already told me I was healthy.
Of course.
But then when I stepped on that scale and based on your numbers, it looked different. Now it's like, you need to change your diet. Literally 10 minutes ago, you told me to keep doing what the fuck I was doing. But now, because you see a number, now it's like, oh, changed. Like, it's almost robotic.
It's a problem.
Script. It's a fat bitch. Like, now you need to do whatever. It's like, so, like, that tells me to not listen, or really to ignore what you say. It's like, I feel like I'm healthy. If you are not telling me, to your point, if my arm not getting chopped off, or if it's not already off, like I need to do my own research, because what you're telling me is the script that you're giving is not acceptable. And there was multiple people in the room like, stop trying to bring up what doctors say as like the end all be all based off of this very Eurocentric view of
very Eurocentric chart. And the other thing too is like, the other part of how fat phobia works is that people use health to police other people's bodies. So they use this ideal of health, whatever that means, right? Because health, like there's no definition, there's no actual definition that is universal for what is healthy for every single person, right? And so health is the way that people justify to themselves being like atrocious to fat people. Is like, oh, but they're not healthy. Oh, they're gonna die from a heart attack. I'm just saying the obvious, stuff like that. Yeah,
people do not care about people that much. We've seen it in this.
They don't.
Like, you don't truly care about your neighbor because your ass won't even wear a mask. So stop talking about
You don't give a fuck about nobody's health.
You don't. And so health is like, I always look at when people talk about like fatness and health, I'm always like, I feel like it's just a guise for you to be a dick. Like for you to be an asshole. It's like, because at the end of the day, right, are you really that concerned about my health? Like if I am unhealthy, that's for me to figure out for my body. Like that still doesn't give you a right to police it.
Right.
And so and so that health piece comes in because people use that as a justification to be shitty to fat people.
Yeah. And just say you hate fat people.
Just say that.
And move on.
Yeah.
Like,
move on.
Because then if you say that, then they will be a bad person. But if they just say,
right,
I think you should.
They don't want to be bad.
Yeah.
They want us to be bad.
Yeah.
So it's our fault. We're disgusting. Yeah, no. And another thing I would just like to add is that, and to Dayna's story a little bit, is like the size that I was when I was in high school is like your body naturally just changes over time. Nobody's going to be that size for the size you were your freshman. Nobody's going to be that size. I mean, just look at your family, your mothers, your fathers. Like, there's a sliver of people who are like, oh, okay, she look good. She, whatever. She gets in her old cheerleading costume. That's not the majority of it. Okay. And one thing I have to remember, because even looking back at old high school pictures, and I'm like, why did I ever think I was fat? Like I was a hottie out here. But that comparison, even to your past self, will eat you alive. And so what I also have had to do is like remember and appreciate the body and like what it's gotten me to, and like how it's changed over time, and how I just have to appreciate that, because sometimes you'll be looking back at your past self and be like, oh, I want to be 14 again. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
That's a word. Damn.
That's true, because the other thing is, me and one of my best friends talk about this all the time, like how people are always like, oh, I'm trying to get back to my high school weight. Even if you got back to that exact same weight, your body won't look the same. Like, we're aging, we're getting older. Like, you're a 14 to 18-year-old body is not going to look like a 28 to 32-year-old body. Like, it's just not. Even if you get down to the same size. And I think the other thing too is, like, as a society, collectively, society has to, well, I don't know that society ever will, but I guess the goal would be society has to be okay with fatness. Like, okay, if you were fat, right, in high school, that's okay. If you were fat at any point in your life, that's okay.
That's okay.
It doesn't have to be a source of shame, or a source of like, oh my God, I can't believe I look like that. Like, it's like, if you were fat and you lost weight, if you were thin and you got fat, like, it's okay.
Either you were skinny and got big, or you were big and got skinny. Either way, we fuck it.
No, so true. And especially, like, people have children. Like, I don't even have any children, but it's like people have children. People just go through, your hormones change.
Yeah.
Like, even as you get older, your hormones are constantly changing. Something you could eat the other day makes you bloated or have diarrhea the next. Shit, yesterday I got off a couch and popped my shoulder. I don't know what the fuck I did. I just got up.
It's like you literally didn't move your arm. What happened?
I did something, and I don't know what I did. I just got up off the couch. And so it's like your body's gonna be constantly changing, and you just have to like make room for that.
And that's such a good point. Like, outside of size, our bodies are changing. At some point, as much as black don't crack, it's going to crack one day. Like, at some point, we're going to get wrinkles. Like, now we probably won't be. It'll probably be when we're 70. It won't be when we're like 40. But our bodies, like, I look at pictures from like 10 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, I look older now. Like, I can. It's a part of life, and so our bodies are always changing. Because we're living life, we're getting older. The alternative,
and that's a blessing. Because the alternative
is dying.
You dying.
The alternative is
literally.
I think
I'd much rather have wrinkles.
I feel like we have to give ourselves grace, and also because even to the examples that you gave of like having a baby or multiple babies, and what's always praised, the women who have snapbacks. It's like, oh, you got your body back like right after you had the baby, and then that becomes the expectation of, if you don't, then something is wrong. Or if
And
it's like,
that
oh,
is
you can
not-
still like you
that
still
is
look
not
so
healthy.
you still look so
That's
young
not
and you're
healthy.
old, and it
That's not the average
Yeah.
person.
That's not healthy, and it's so
Rare.
unrealistic.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
rare. Like
Yeah.
if
It's
we're
so
talking
toxic.
about people we know in real life, like not like, and hell, even Beyonce after the twins didn't have a
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she got thicker.
and
Yeah.
she was and she's she's Beyonce. She's got billions of dollars and
Right.
everything, and even even someone who could pay for it
Mm-hmm.
still didn't have, like, her body doesn't look like what she looked like post the twin or
Yeah.
Right.
Which
pre
makes
the twin.
complete sense.
And so when you like take away celebrity, like, millions of dollars, if you're talking about your average woman, no, like, do you really expect after 2 months of her having like carried a child, her body stretched out for 9.5 months, birthed this child, healing her body after she birthed the child, that she should look how she looked before she got pregnant in 8
Yeah.
weeks? That's crazy. Like, that's
Yeah.
Crazy.
when you say it
Yeah.
out loud, it's such
It's so
a crazy expectation. But it's like, on top of dealing with being a mother, possibly a new mother,
Mhm.
now you worried about this standard of like, okay, I gotta snap back to what I looked like before I got pregnant. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Your whole body carried a whole
You
human.
birthed a human, like, and it's the expectation is to pop back is so yeah,
It's the raggedy ass patriarchy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Really what it comes down to.
I would say still giving ourselves grace. Even when you said like Black don't crack and looking older, it's like we praise the Gabrielle Unions or the Pharrells who look great for their age. It's like, oh, so like they're in their, I think they're 50 now or so, and look younger. But it's also
Something like that,
it's
40,
also
50,
okay
50.
to look your age, because I feel like
Right.
the older that I've
I
gotten,
look 30.
yeah,
It's okay.
the older that I've gotten, and I see like people who are 50 or 60 or 70, it's like, that's a blessing to still.
Yeah.
I can't wait to look to say I look like I'm 70, because that means I've been alive for 70 years. Like, what's the alternative? Yeah.
That's such a good point. And I feel like that's a whole nother topic, is like ageism is real too.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
like, especially again, I mean, I think everything just hits women harder. Because there's this expectation that is not the same for men. Like, men might go through stuff with like their hair and things like that, but like women are expected to look 25 forever.
Yeah.
And only be desirable when they're 25, because as soon as they, to the opposite, as soon as you can no longer bear children, or as soon as you get one wrinkle or gravity hits your boobs or whatever it may be, like, then it's like, oh, you're disposable.
Your values completely
you're no
diminished.
longer useful. But for men, it's like, oh, he's mature, he's grown. And I'm sure if we were talking to a man, they could list like, no, these things exist. But because I think too, with all of this, beauty is what's considered women's currency. So if you don't have it, and the standards of what we decide is beautiful,
absolutely,
then who are you? And you're not worth anything if you don't have it.
And even think about mainstream society. How many, I'm trying to think, Richard Gere or a Tom Cruise, or like, those niggas are old, but they still leading roles and doing all
Leonardo
that.
DiCaprio.
But then when you get a woman who's the same, Leonardo DiCaprio's a fucking low-key, he's not a pedophile because they're illegal.
They're always 21.
But he's grown.
Girlfriends he gets
older and his girlfriend stays 21.
They get younger.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But how many women and actresses talk about this too, especially the actresses of color. But once you get a certain age, it's like grandma, mom, no leading ladies, nothing sexually desirable.
Viola Davis talked about that with How to Get Away with Murder, and like having Shonda write her role where she was an older woman who was still having sex, who was still seen as desirable to her suitors, who still had a life, and it was like she wasn't someone's mama. I feel like that becomes the thing. You're 20 and then you become someone's mama or grandma, and there's nothing in between of like, I know a lot of 40 and 50-year-old women, they having a time of their lives.
Right. Tracy Ellis Ross,
girl,
I'm coming
like goals as far as life, and they got nothing to do with how she looked, but just the life that she lives is is goals.
Yes, it really is.
Yes. So thanks for joining us. I feel like we can have this discussion for hours, and I feel like Ryan's also my AP, my adopted personal. So we have conversations like this all the time, even with the intersection of like colorism and fat phobia and everything. Like we get deep. So it's always a pleasure to have these conversations with you. Tell our listeners, one, where they can find you on socials, and then if there's any events that you're doing or plugging or anything as far as any work or art that you're curating, kind of where they can find you, if there's anything like that that you may have.
Okay. Well, hey, it was a pleasure to be here. This was such a good conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
Yeah, we can have this conversation for hours. all three of us. All three of us.
All three of us.
But so you can find me on Instagram at rdanipear. So it's RDANIPEAR. I'm not really on Twitter. I just read it. I don't really interact. So Instagram is probably the best place to find me. I am gonna be a part of like this next iteration of like a curvy cannabis sort of thing. I did a curvy cannabis photo shoot a couple of years ago,
which was flawless, gorgeous,
thank you.
So dope.
What does that involve? When you say curvy cannabis, where does the cannabis come in?
Oh, weed smoking.
Oh, I'm thinking like there's like hemp clothing or like you're rolling in weed or something. I wasn't sure. I'm glad you explained it.
So
okay, got it.
Basically what the point is, real quick, the point was that in a lot of like now that cannabis has exploded as an industry, you see mostly like white people represented, which is a whole
other episode.
But you see mostly like white hipster type people represented as the face. And so a friend of mine, her name is Jessica Jackson. She went to U of M with us. She decided to do a curvy cannabis sort of like photo shoot campaign that showed like curvy women. It was women of color and white women, but all of us were, I want to say the smallest person was like maybe a size 10. So it was like probably 10 to like probably like 24. And and we all, we had a smoke session, we were in lingerie, and it was like it was really nice.
I love that.
And the photographer was great. It was beautiful. So we're doing another iteration of that. I'm not sure when. It's been, COVID stuff kind of pushes things around. But I'm doing that, and then I'm working on a couple other like projects with friends and stuff around like body liberation. So, those will be on my social media when they're completed.
Cool. And we'll definitely reshare when you post to get them out as a follow-up to our listeners.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean,
this is really important.
Mostly I'm just like, being in my body, constantly thankful for my body, and, just loving on my body. That's what I'm doing right now.
That's what we all need to do.
Yeah.
This is homework for everybody listening to this episode. Go look in the mirror, get either completely naked or in your drawers and your bra, and just point out stuff that you like about your body.
Yes. And if you can't find something you like, point out something you appreciate.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
That was actually going to be my tone check was to check yourselves on, outside is open. We're coming out of quarantine. Hopefully people are quarantining. Some people are still outside. But anyway, and I feel like a lot of folks are, and I've made the jokes too. I've said like, I've gained weight in quarantine. I'm trying to get back in the gym to lose weight, or like having even an anxiety of like, I'm going out and I look different than when the last time people saw me. So even as a tone check to ourselves, let's, to the point of what you were saying of look at it, have grace with yourself. Your body is yours. It's the only one that you get. Like, it's not like a hair strand where maybe it can grow back. Like
Right.
Your body is the only one that you're going to have, even if you do different alterations or things to it. So take some time and have grace for yourself. And also think about the thoughts that you have when you see other people in their different bodies. And are you projecting something that you really don't like about yourself, and you see somebody that has that and has confidence, and you mad? Ask yourself why. And really get to that, because of the point of Ryan, what you said of like society needs to accept fatness, of like that can start with how we both see our bodies and how we see other people's bodies as well. And not to the point of that asshole of an adult that told you that when you were 8, but like what you say does carry weight, especially to children. And so keep that in mind and check yourself as outside opens and we start seeing each other as well.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say just think about like a small, like if you're just learning about like what fat phobia is and how we all have perpetuated it at some point. Just think about how you think about fat bodies, how you talk about fatness, even if it's not a fat body, how you talk about fatness, whether it's like you gaining or losing weight, like just think about the way that you think about fatness. And that's a good place to start in terms of unpacking, like how you feel and maybe where you learned some things. Like I know I can trace back certain things to like, should I heard in my family? You know what I'm saying? Or should I heard from adults as a kid? So just like that's a start to unpacking. And then I would say, you know, follow folks on social media, follow fat people on social media. Like, diversify your feed, go and find a fat acceptance page or a body liberation page, and really just,
that's really good advice.
Be there to listen and learn.
There was, I know we're wrapping up, but that's a good point, because I was reading an article about how within social media and the amount of time that we spend scrolling on our timelines and like what we literally tap to like or what we find acceptable, is like we're feeding that to ourselves. So if your timeline is full of people who don't look like you, so whether it's your skin tone, your hair texture, your body size, whatever, that's what you're going to start feeding as beautiful. And basically you're feeding yourself things that aren't you. But if you start, and I don't mean like, your friends, like still follow your friends, but like, you know, like you're saying, different pages or celebrities or things like that.
Influencers, celebrities.
Versus when you actually start.
That's how you learn.
Yeah. When you actually start switching up your timeline. And even for me, what I noticed was a lot of the celebrities, influence, whatever, that I followed were lighter skinned. I never saw anybody that was my complexion. So that's everything that I was feeding myself. And now I'm like, maybe I'm gonna make a conscious effort to actually start following people who look like me. And I started my lock, so I follow a lot more lock pages. So there's a lot more like both with hair and then a lot with skin color that come into that. And it changes your perception, because now within 24 hours, I've seen 50% of women who look like me, and I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. Whether it's I just like your outfit, I did whatever. But now that's what I'm feeding myself, as opposed to I'm ingesting everything that looks nothing like me. And that's
so important to do that. It's so important to do that.
So cleanse your timelines too. That's the tone check this week. Cleanse your minds and your timelines.
The only other tone check I have is for Kamala. Girl, get the fuck out of here. I'm so tired of her. She was in Guatemala? Mexico? She in Guatemala, and she said, "Don't come." Seeking asylum is not illegal, baby girl.
She's an immigrant on both sides. On both sides. On both sides.
How could you fix your lips to tell people not to come here? But that's all I'm gonna say.
She said, "Don't come."
She said, "Don't come." I had to play the clip several times. I'm like, I know the fuck this child of immigrants who is the AKA, who is the first woman vice president, just said, "Don't come." Bitch, you wouldn't be here. You would not be here.
She pulled a Bryson Tiller. Don't.
Shit, your founder said, "Don't come. We ain't changing our colors. Don't come here."
Don't. Wow.
Over it. Anyway, that's my only tone check. In addition to what Dayna was saying to help y'all, I'm saying, Kamala, Kamala. Am I saying
You're saying it wrong, but that's fine. All the time. Yeah, you can call it.
It's fine. Whatever.
Daughter of immigrants.
Right. So offensive. That's wild. Anyway.
Yeah. But all right. Yep.
And pay these student loans.
Right. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
This episode was produced by us and edited by Dayna Cole. Our theme music is the track Same by Ricky Els. Be sure to check it out on all streaming platforms. For questions, comments, feedback, or topic suggestions, hit us up at queentonepod@gmail.com. Be sure to also check us out and follow on Instagram and Twitter @queentonepod. Thanks for listening.